Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today we're going to be talking about a wild weather forecast for the entire Australian continent over the next 10 days. We're going to start by looking at New South Wales and Queensland, where a tropical low is expected to meander between Bundaberg right down towards Coffs Harbour in New South Wales and bring torrential rainfall ashore in southeast Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. But the entire Queensland coastline is under threat from up to 50 millimetres of rainfall. We'll also be talking about a strong cold front that is expected to impact inland Australia. But before that, we're going to talk about a series of major cold fronts that are going to impact Western Australia. If you haven't already, then please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support is greatly appreciated. Like I said, we're going to start things off with the New South Wales Queensland situation. It is a dry forecast over there for the next 5 days at least, and that is reciprocated amongst rainfall accumulation. Very limited rainfall is expected along New South Wales and Queensland over the next 5 days. Just a couple of spots up in far north Queensland that might receive some good rainfall, but it is a complete change in the 10-day forecast. I'm just going to spoil it all right now. Taking a look at these blues and purples here, between 100 and 200 millimetres of rainfall expected to set itself up just offshore from Brisbane and the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast as well. It is reciprocated amongst forecast models as well. There's great model congruency with this forecast here, but the Eastern RF is going to town with this weather situation, and it starts up later next week. What's going to happen is one of those really strong cold fronts is going to move across the entire Australian continent, right through New South Wales and even in towards Queensland. Not only is it going to be bringing gusty winds and cold conditions in its wake, but it's also going to be bringing some heavy rainfall on its front. Up to 15 millimetres is possible before this next weekend. And the start of June across a lot of central Australia, especially areas south of Alice Springs, laterally south of Alice Springs at least, areas are expecting at least 10 millimetres of rainfall. And what's going to happen is this cold front is going to get itself jammed up in the Coral Sea next to a low pressure area between the Queensland coastline and New Caledonia. It's going to start forming around here, but it will take its time throughout the course of the weekend to form, and it's going to develop into this big, long trough situation. Once again, reciprocated amongst the forecast models, the GFS calling for it to happen probably about a day earlier, where we have this east coast trough set itself up sometime next weekend, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even in towards Monday as well. And what that means is there's going to be an awful lot of rainfall offshore, and it's going to be very heavy rainfall as well. And just taking a look at the forecast here, this almost looks monsoonal up in the north, which is highly unusual for this time of the year. But this is a very weird forecast to be having, full stop. This is a lot of rainfall, especially for this time of the year. So this is very, very interesting indeed. And of course, it will result in rainfall accumulations in coastal areas, but I'm talking coastal. If you go 20 kilometres inland, you're not going to be seeing much in the way of rainfall, but especially for coastal areas such as the Whitsundays, Airlie Beach, Fraser Island, even down towards Cape Byron and so forth, areas that are in exposed coastal locations, you're talking up towards 200 millimetres possible, because this will be stagnant, heavy showers over the course of about 48, maybe even 72 hours before they drag themselves offshore by early next fortnight as they move towards New Caledonia and further in towards the Tasman and the Coral Seas. But still, nonetheless, an awful lot of rainfall is expected, and there will also be the chance of thunderstorms here. Like I said, just a little tropical low developing here is not off the cards either. The GFS was expecting one in the northern extremities of the Coral Sea south of PNG, and the Eastern Weather Forecast model is expecting one to latch itself somewhere between Rockhampton and New Caledonia. So this is a very interesting forecast here, and it even looks like it gets itself onshore. If this was to happen, it's likely going to bring a very strong or some very strong winds. We're talking wind gusts up towards 100 or 110 kilometres an hour on this forecast, up to 120 kilometres an hour, widespread winds above 80 or 90 kilometres an hour. So some big waves is also a significant threat from this forecast. This is a very interesting forecast as well for this time of the year, by the way. Normally we see weather events like this happening earlier on or in the later parts of the wet season, even in March, April and early May. But in late May, early June, this is highly unusual. This is very late into the winter season, and it just shows you how late winter is this season. You'd be forgiven for thinking that winter should have started about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, even depending on where you are. But yeah, it's only just beginning to break right now, and I'm feeling it down in Western Australia, and it will be a couple of days behind for Victoria and Tasmania. More on that later on in the video. But right now, it's looking like a pretty nasty forecast in terms terms of winds, rain and waves for the northern parts of New South Wales and the entirety of the Queensland coastline. In fact, major population centres such as Cairns expecting upwards of 40 millimetres of rainfall, Townsville expecting at least 25, Mackay as well 25, Rockhampton probably closer to 30, Bundaberg about 25, and then down towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast about 30 to 40 millimetres expected there. But the rainfall down there is going to be highly variable. The eastern Beth is expecting more rainfall than what the GFS is expecting. We're talking rainfall accumulations tickling 100, maybe 120 or even 150 millimetres for some locations just south of the Gold Coast in those mountainous areas in the Blue Mountains just outside of Brisbane. So this is a bit of a variable forecast. Where, like I said yesterday, we're not going to know much until about 3 or 4 days from now. So in the middle parts of this coming week, we'll be able to give you a very detailed update on the situation in this part of Queensland and New South Wales, but for now it is a highly uncertain forecast. There is great model congruency though between the Eastern Alberta forecast model and the GFS forecast model, and as such that's why I'm spending so much time hammering home the details of this forecast. But the Axis G3 hasn't jumped on board with it completely yet. They're more so calling for a cold front to move through New South Wales and a lot of rain falling through there, and also some rainfall for Tasmania, much needed rainfall might I add, and also some much needed rainfall for the central parts of Victoria and the southern parts of New South Wales, which are currently in exceptional drought conditions at this time. Now that's enough on the eastern states. They are expecting a lot of rainfall, but it is beyond the West Australian situation, which is definitely quite a concerning one now. We actually have a monster cold front on the cards now, and I'll bring those details in the next 5 minutes. But we're going to start things off with the rainfall forecast right now. It's going to be a dry Sunday by the looks of things. A couple of showers developing later on this afternoon for the Perth area, and some heavier showers and gusty winds developing around the Capes by early tomorrow morning. Looks like some of this rain will extend into the metro area early on Monday morning, so the commute to work on Monday might be a bit of a miserable and wet one, so take extreme care on those roads, especially because after an extremely hot and dry summer, there's still going to be oil on those roads that's got to take a couple more fronts to seep itself out. Thankfully, it will be done by this weekend, fingers crossed, but those roads are going to be very hazardous indeed this weekend. The details on that very shortly. Tuesday, another cold front brushing up by the looks of things Tuesday morning, and then Tuesday evening, the third cold front brushes up on the Perth metro area. This one does look like it's going to be significantly stronger as well, and into Wednesday morning there's going to be some heavier showers, gusty winds and possible small hailstones as well. We're going to be talking about gusty winds up towards 80 or 90 kilometres an hour as well for the Perth metro area, and a little bit stronger down towards the Capes by the looks of things. But this cold front's really going to jump up from the south, and it's going to bring some icy conditions Wednesday morning. So very, very cold, especially inland. We're going to be seeing overnight minima below 10 degrees, maybe even below 5 for some locations. But it's going to be the entire day through Wednesday where temperatures struggle to climb above 12 degrees Celsius for parts of the southwest corner. Perth should escape with a 16-degree maxima, but still going to be bitterly cold there. And Thursday night is going to be the really cold one. Wednesday evening into Thursday morning, it is going to be very cold, especially further north as well. It'll be below 0 degrees for some locations. Back to the rain forecast, we've got that cold front's wake, the cold showers moving through Wednesday evening and into Thursday morning. This is probably going to be the best chance of some snow on the Stirling Ranges. Probably not the Paronga Ups, it might be a little bit too warm for that, but if there was to be a couple of showers get themselves inland towards the Stirling Ranges on Thursday morning or later into Wednesday evening, there is a slim chance of some snowfalls or snow flurries there, probably only on Bluff Knoll at this time. The other mountains are just going to be a little bit too small to receive those proper flurries. Again, hiking will be incredibly dangerous, probably not advisable either, especially considering the chances of snow are probably around 10 to 20%, but if you are going down there, then make sure you do exercise extreme caution on those mountains. They will be dangerous, but you will have a slim chance of seeing some snow. That Stirling Range Ridge Walk, though, that will be a very dangerous task to do Wednesday, Thursday, in fact, just this entire week. So if you are planning on doing that, I would highly advise reconsidering unless you are a very experienced hiker. Agricultural districts as well, expecting some pretty good rainfall by Wednesday and Thursday, at least 20 millimetres of the stuff as well. So if you are planning on seeding, I reckon those dry conditions Thursday and Friday that's going to be experienced inland, they're going to be prime days to do it. Get it in before the weekend, because we do have probably the front of the year coming in Saturday evening into Sunday morning. And you just start to see it on the forecast models right here. It is a big time cold front that's about to sweep in. So you've got all day Thursday, all day Friday to get some seeds into the ground. Maybe not all day Friday if you do live closer down south towards the Collie sort of region, but especially inland, you're going to have right through Friday to get that seed into the ground before a monster cold front sweeps up from the south on Saturday, and the shower pool behind it is going to be huge. Saturday evening, there's going to be an awful lot of rainfall, probably up towards 50 millimetres of the stuff for the Perth metro area, at least 60 or 70 for the southwest Capes. I'm probably going to still be talking about 20 or 30 millimetres as far north as Geraldton, including Jurien Bay, Cervantes, Kalbarri maybe even might get 10 or 15 millimetres of rainfall. And the unique thing about this front, not only is the violent shower pool behind it, but just how far north all of this rainfall extends. It's going to be streaming in a massive band of moisture from a developing tropical cyclone in the southwest Indian Ocean. And this moisture is just going to be showers, maybe some thunderstorms as well. That's going to dominate the Pilbara and the Gascoyne districts as well in Western Australia, where up to 20 millimetres is possible through very widespread areas up there. So unusual weather for them this time of the year. It's not going to be hot and dry. It's going to be cold and wet and probably quite miserable as well. So a little bit of rainfall is expected up in the desert communities up there. And some very good rainfalls Saturday evening into Sunday morning for these inland communities, these agricultural communities throughout the wheat belt and even into the goldfields as well. This is a great forecast to be having. And then that shower pool behind it, another front sweeps in Sunday about midday, and the shower pool behind it is violent. This is where we're going to be seeing those extremely damaging winds, probably up towards 110 kilometres an hour for the southwest Capes. In fact, maybe even a little bit stronger. We've got winds here of 140 kilometres an hour, and that means wave heights are going to be at around that 10 metre or 30 foot mark here. 27 foot here, or about 8 or 9 metres. Very, very high indeed, and up towards 7 metres just offshore from Rottnest. So boating is an absolute no-go whatsoever. Ships would struggle to move through 10 metre waves. That is just some monstrous wave conditions through there. And like I said, this will likely be the front of the year. It's going to be an incredibly powerful one. Very dangerous weather conditions are expected to come ashore here. And yeah, just very strong winds all around through Sunday and even in towards Monday morning as well. These winds will not ease off until Monday evening. And that's when the rainfall is expected to ease off and it becomes South Australia's problem after that. You can just see it move through South Australia. And this cold front, if it gets itself over the Great Australian Bight and slips down the coast here, impacting Kangaroo Island and then on towards Tasmania, it would be a monster cold front for them, but it doesn't look like it's going to be doing that at this time. We'll have to wait and see on the forecast. More on that later on in this video. But right now, looking like a very, very dangerous weather situation for the southwest corner of Western Australia. In terms of rainfall accumulation over the next 10 days, we're looking at peak accumulations up to 220 millimetres just offshore from Walpole and Pemberton. The southwest coastal regions expecting up towards 50 to 100 millimetres on the coast. Inland, you're talking more sort of 30 to 50 millimetres of rainfall. Stirling Ranges about 25 millimetres of rainfall, and then those inland wheatbelt communities up to 50 millimetres of rainfall. If they're lucky, they might get a little bit more as well. The Perth Metro expecting a very healthy 100 millimetres of rainfall inland towards the Darling Ranges communities, more sort of 100 to 110 millimetres. Along the coast, though, up towards 120, maybe even 130 millimetres possible. And a bit of a model fluky, looks like 150 millimetres up towards Jurien Bay. And right up the coastline as well, Kalbarri looking out for 50 millimetres, and then into the northern parts of Western Australia, you're still talking up towards 20 to 50 millimetres of rainfall. So all around, just very, very wet conditions across the entirety of the state, and there's not a single spot on the forecast except for the extreme northern parts of the Kimberley that are without rainfall for the next 10 days. So that is a very wet forecast for the entirety of Western Australia, and this is going to look great in the next 10 days once we get some rainfall into the central parts of Western Australia. They're all going to go green by the looks of things, especially with 50 millimetres of rainfall. Just for fun, let's take a look at the snow accumulation forecast over the next 10 days, and as I expected, it doesn't look like there's any expected to settle or fall at this time about, absolutely nothing really, but like I said, there is a slim chance of flurries Thursday morning on the Stirling Ranges. It will be bitterly cold regardless though, so make sure you do stay safe if you are planning on hiking. Once again, that is a very long-winded forecast for the West Australian cold front situation. We've had one front, we've got 4 to go now, so make sure you are staying safe. You're pruning up those branches that are at risk of dropping onto your property. We're now going to shift focus to Victoria and Tasmania. We do have a couple of fronts expected to go for them in the next 10 days or so. In particular, one that's going to be moving through Wednesday and into Thursday. This is one of the first fronts to impact the West Australian coastline. It is a big cold front impacting South Australia, especially Adelaide, looking like they're going to get about 20 millimetres from this. That It'll open up their winter season. And then into Victoria as well, Melbourne could see about 10-15 millimetres of rainfall. Some strong winds and heavy rainfall also expected through the Bass Strait into Tasmania. We could be seeing up towards 30 or 40 millimetres on the northern side of Tasmania. And once again, with all of these fronts here, Mount Cyclone Island obviously being the windiest place in Australia, looking like they're going to get 100 kilometre an hour wind gusts. So that is some food for thought as well. Very heavy rainfall all around, though, expected on Tasmania. Up to 50 millimetres from that cold front alone by the looks of things. So yeah, that will definitely break open their winter season by the looks of things. Maybe a little bit of snow as well over the coming 10 days, maybe up towards 3 or 4 centimetres on some of the more elevated areas around Cradle Mountain. Some of the taller mountains around there could see some good snowfall. But apart from that, it looks high and dry for the remainder of Australia in terms of snowfall. It's really going to be Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania that are going to break into winter. New South Wales and Queensland, as we discussed earlier, are still full-blown in their summer monsoonal wet season pattern, so that is interesting, that's for sure. Now, we will just finish this video off with a little bit of tropical cyclone talk. We've got that tropical cyclone still on the forecast, or tropical low, still on the forecast south of the Maldives in the early parts of June. Looks like it's actually going to form, and I've been saying this for the last couple of days, but it is just such a weird thing to have on the forecast. You can see Australia way over here, about 6,000 or 7,000 kilometres away from where this tropical cyclone is expected to develop. Very, very weak, though. It won't even tickle Category 1 status by the looks of things on the Australian cyclone scale, but still it is a chance of development, and it will very much be in the Mateo France area of responsibility in the southwest Indian Ocean, but still it is interesting to see southern hemisphere cyclone activity this time of the year. And obviously we've got that typhoon activity as well up in the western Pacific. We've got a tropical storm currently over the Philippines, Tropical Storm Erwin, or I believe it's going to be named Erwin later today and into tomorrow, and then that's expected to intensify a little bit as it sweeps up towards the Ryukyu Islands and Minami Daito-jima, south of Japan. Could provide some impacts, a bit of rainfall and some big waves there, but it doesn't look like it's going to get awfully strong. And the North Indian Ocean cyclone as well that we've been talking up for the last couple of days, it's really struggled, it has, and that is great news because it doesn't look like it's going to be too strong as it goes into India or Bangladesh. The unfortunate side effect of that is, do you want wind or do you want rainfall? And this system is going to be providing the rainfall option. We're looking at up to a metre of rainfall for some areas in Bangladesh and India around Kolkata, and that's combined with a heat wave where temperatures are expected to soar to 50 degrees Celsius for major Indian population centres such as New Delhi, Jodhpur, maybe even down towards the more central parts of India as well. Around Hyderabad, we could be seeing some very warm temperatures down there, daytime maxima in excess of 45 degrees Celsius. Stifling hot. It's not heat that they're used to either. They can get boiling hot this time of the year, but 50 degrees is certainly pushing the mercury, that's for sure. Anyways, that basically does it for the weather forecast today. It's been a very long video. If you've got any questions or comments or any feedback that you'd like to leave, then do leave it in the comment section down below. Leave me a detailed weather report for your location as well in the comment section down below. I look forward to reading and responding to all of them today. It's been a pleasure having your company this Sunday morning. I hope you have a fantastic day. If you are in the southwest corner of Western Australia, I do advise that you begin preparations for this week of violent winter weather that's on the way by trimming up branches that are at risk of falling onto your property or onto sheds or so forth, because these winds, they are going to be violent up to 120 kilometres an hour. And also, if you do live in an agricultural area or you plan on seeding just in general, you could either spend today doing it or you've got a couple of days, a little bit of a break in the weather next week. But anyways, that is all in the weather coverage from me today, and we'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.